Why doesn't the hair look like, well... Instead, it looks like a fabric with a hair pattern on top. If you've ever struggled with this, you're not alone, because that person is me. I've always been bad at rendering hair, but what causes this? Dimension! The layering of the hair. Layering is key, and to get it right, you need at least 2, preferably 3 layers. The lowest layer is usually the darkest, the second is lighter, and the third is the lightest. When layering, go from big, medium, to small. Now that I have this formula, it's time to put it into practice. Boom! First one's a banger. Well, video over, right? I've just proved I can draw hair.
What about wavy and curly hair?
Can't be that different, right? I'll just do the same thing. What the heck happened here? I've never been great at drawing curly hair and coily hair, probably because I avoided it. It's just way more complex. Curly hair tends to stick up at the root before falling and conforming to gravity. Now that I get that, I should be able to do well, right? I don't know. First, I must start off with practice. Drawing curly hair in simplified forms by using only 3 values. The first hairstyle I choose is an afro. I began with a big circle, cut into that circle, which is the face, and then blocked in my dark and light values. I cut into the shape to create curls. Surprisingly, it turned out pretty solid. Time for the next one. I essentially did the same thing again, but this one just went a little bit better. By the third attempt, I went for a higher contrast to see how it would translate. But I overdid it and got lost in the details without solidly establishing the shapes. Not as successful. Next, I went for a side part, and yep, I started to see a pattern. Focused too much on small shapes instead of big ones, and it just looked off. It doesn't really look like a side part. I mean, like if you squint your eyes, kinda. And with the current pattern that's going, this 5th one is gonna be another dookie. And, you know, start off with the large shapes, and oh wait, those are pretty purposeful. I didn't actually try to go straight into detailing, and I really focused on big, medium, and small, and what do you know, it worked out. Best one so far. And for the 6th, well, I do the same. Nah, I make the same mistake, but wait, it actually worked? Why? The curls were all flowing in the same direction, which kept things looking odd, because that means that each and every single curl is actually pretty defined. So, you know, this one time it worked, but that doesn't mean it's gonna work every time. I just got lucky. Now, on to actually applying this. For the first one, unfortunately I forgot to record the 3/4 of this process. But you know what, at least I got the end, you know, that's what's important. Right off the bat, it looked a bit washed out. It was supposed to be low contrast, but that doesn't mean it should lack clarity. At least the face came out good. The hair just, you know what it kind of reminds me of? You know, dust. I drew it a little dusty looking. The second attempt was better. I remembered to record this time. I didn't sketch beforehand, which made me focus more on being purposeful with each brushstroke. The face came out way clearer, despite having the same contrast as the first one. However, I made the mistake of immediately scribbling the hair in instead of applying the same careful technique I used for the face. I tried to fix it with a hard brush, but in hindsight, I should have started from scratch, because the underside still looked messy. In the end, the face was great, but the hair was just okay, meaning I had more work to do. The third attempt wasn't planned, not in the slightest. I wanted to finish this in a week, but I had to extend it because I wasn't getting the results I wanted. It's like, what kind of video am I gonna post? Yeah, here's a video of me studying how to draw hair. The improvement is barely there. That'd be a pretty disappointing video. This time I was even more intentional with my brushstrokes. Each one felt purposeful and like it contributed to the shape of the face. turned out pretty good. Then came the hair. I've only done braids once, 2 years ago, so this was pretty much brand new territory. I used one big strip and lighter square values to define the braids. It was tough, but pushing myself to be confident in an area I'm not confident in made it a valuable learning experience. To test my skills, I did a no reference piece, which basically means I didn't have a direct reference, but still drew from some general ideas that came from references. I immediately started overusing the undo tool to get the perfect lines, which was so bad. Like, look at that, this is unbearable to watch. But after finishing the sketch, I was feeling good. For lighting, I chose sunset lighting because it has warm tones and cool shadows. I spent about 40 minutes rendering the face, and it came out okay. Maybe I could have used more contrast, but it was cool enough. Then came the hair. Well, we all came for. I laid down warm orange for the highlights and cool blues for the shadows, which blended to make purple in the middle. I slapped down the base colors, added highlights, and broke the strands apart with shadow colors. I added smaller strands for texture and depth, and in the end, I did it. The hair looks fantastic. Probably the best I've ever done, especially that it's without a reference. Now came the real challenge. No reference, curly hair. I had a rough start, undoing more than last time. Well, it wasn't my fault actually, because my undo key was broken and it just kept doing it. Still not a good start. The sketch I made looks pretty good. And with that, it's time to render. I put down the base colors and then what happened? I was so worried about purposeful brush strokes and now it feels so muddy. As if I've forgotten about it, but I didn't actually, which is the weird part. I spent a solid hour struggling, debating whether to restart, but I stuck with it and ended up making it better. Although the sweater doesn't look good, It's kind of muddy still. But hey, we didn't come for the sweater, right? So it's not that important. And the hair was starting to come together. I added backlighting, increased contrast, and used stray strands to find the silhouettes. It didn't turn out as fantastic as the last piece, but I'm still proud of the progress and how I corrected course. In the end, I believe that I accomplished what I set out to do. My rendering of curly is better than ever before. As for curly hair, I'm still on my way, but now I don't feel the need to avoid it. Hopefully, I'll be able to render curly hair beautifully soon. And with that, it's the end of this video.